The soft music from the speakers drifted through the room, mingling with the quiet breaths and occasional shuffles of feet. Emily sat on the couch, her fingers nervously tracing the edge of her sleeve, as the four men stood before her, each a vivid reminder of chapters in her life. Daniel sat beside her, his presence steady but respectful, giving her the space she needed to sort through the storm of emotions swirling inside her. She looked first at Mark, the first love. His eyes held a gentle sorrow, like a book left unfinished. She remembered the late nights when they would talk about dreams so big, they could barely fit inside their tiny dorm room. Mark was the person who had taught her how to love, and heartbreakingly, how to let go. "Do you ever regret us?" she asked him quietly. Mark looked away for a moment before answering. "Every day. But regret is a strange thing. It teaches you, makes you stronger. I regret that I wasn't the man you needed then." Emily swallowed hard, feeling the ache in her chest. The truth in his words echoed in her own heart. So many years had passed, but the wound felt fresh. Next, she turned to Jake, the almost lover, the man who had haunted her what-ifs. His presence was electric, the kind of pull that made her breath catch. "Why didn't we ever try?" she asked him, voice barely above a whisper. Jake's smile was sad but real. "Maybe we were scared. Maybe the timing was wrong. Or maybe we were just too afraid to risk losing what we had, even if it wasn't everything." His words made Emily realize how much fear had shaped her decisions. She had always played it safe, afraid of losing love before fully embracing it. She felt a spark of something: regret, yes, but also hope. Maybe some risks were worth taking. Lucas, the stranger, was next. His presence was quieter, less defined by the past and more by what could have been. Emily remembered that summer like a secret buried deep, the way they had looked at each other, across crowded rooms, stolen moments under the stars. A brief flame that had died out before it truly began. "Did you ever want to stay?" she asked him, searching his guarded eyes. Lucas nodded slowly. "I wanted to, but life had other plans. Sometimes love isn't enough when the world pulls you apart." Emily felt a pang of longing for that lost possibility. The chance to be someone different, someone brave. Finally, Adam, the flame burning bright in the present moment. He was the unknown future, the man she had only just met but who had stirred something inside her she thought was gone. "Who are you to me?" she asked, a shy smile touching her lips. Adam reached out, taking her hand with a warmth that made her fingers tingle. "Someone who wants to see the real you, beyond the fears and the past. I don't know your story, but I want to be part of the next chapter." His words felt like a promise. Emily's heart raced, and she realized she was standing at a crossroads, not just of love, but of herself. Daniel's voice broke through her thoughts. "This is your night, Em. You don't have to decide anything. Now, just listen to your heart." She nodded, tears spilling freely now. The men around her were more than memories. They were reflections of her soul's deepest longings. That night, they talked, shared stories, laughed softly, and sometimes silence spoke louder than words. Emily felt herself opening in ways she hadn't dared before. She realized how much she had held back, fearing loss, fearing pain, fearing the unknown, but surrounded by these pieces of her past and the possibility of her future, she felt a strange peace. As the hours passed, the night deepened. Emily found herself drawn to Adam's quiet strength, but also to Mark's gentle kindness. Jake's playful charm made her smile, and Lucas's quiet understanding touched a hidden corner of her heart. Daniel watched her with a bittersweet smile. He had given her a gift far beyond a birthday celebration. He had given her a chance to Remember to feel again. But with this gift came a choice. A choice Emily wasn't sure she was ready to make. Just as the clock struck midnight, Emily felt a sudden surge of emotion. She stood up, her voice trembling. "I need some air." Outside, the cool night wrapped around her like a balm. The city lights twinkled below, and the mountains stood silent in the distance. Emily took a deep breath, letting the night calm her racing thoughts. She thought about Daniel's words. Messy, complicated beauty of love. And she wondered, could she find that beauty again? Could she let go of her fears and open her heart fully? Back inside, the four men watched her quietly, each lost in his own thoughts. Daniel finally spoke. "No matter what happens next, Emily, I want you to be honest with yourself, and with us." Emily nodded. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt alive. The night had begun as a surprise she hadn't wanted. Now, it was the beginning of a journey she was ready to face. The first light of dawn slipped quietly through the curtains, casting a pale glow over the apartment. Emily sat at the edge of their bed, the memories of the night swirling in her mind like a soft, persistent breeze. Four men. Four reflections of the life she had lived, and the possibilities she had barely dared to imagine. And Daniel, her husband, who had orchestrated this strange, beautiful reunion not to trap her, but to free her. Her heart was a storm of feelings: confusion, longing, sadness, hope. She knew tonight would change everything. The morning started quietly. Daniel was already awake, sitting by the window with his hands wrapped around a mug of coffee. When Emily entered the room, he looked up and smiled, a smile full of understanding, of patience, and of love that ran deeper than words. "Morning," he said softly. "Morning," she replied, her voice thick with emotion. They sat together, the silence between them comfortable for the first time in weeks. "Thank you," Emily whispered. "For last night. For everything." Daniel took her hand, his thumb brushing gently over her skin. "I wanted you to remember who you are," he said. "All the parts of you you've hidden away. And to know that love isn't just one story. It's many. Yours is still being written." Emily felt tears gather again, but this time they were different tears of healing, of release. Later that day, one by one, the four men came by to say goodbye. Mark was the first. He hugged her tightly, the kind of embrace that spoke of forgiveness and understanding. "Take care of yourself, Emily," he said, "and don't be afraid to love again." Jake came next, his smile softer now, less guarded. "Maybe someday, when the timing is right," he said, "we could find out what if really means." Lucas followed, his quiet eyes steady. "I hope you find the courage to live the life you want," he said simply. Finally, Adam stayed the longest. He looked at her with a tenderness that made her heart ache. "I don't want to rush you," he said. "But whatever you decide, I'll be here." Emily felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. A flicker of hope. That evening, Daniel and Emily sat together on their small balcony, watching the city lights begin to sparkle beneath a deepening sky. They really talked for the first time in months. About fears, dreams, regrets, and desires. Emily told Daniel about the feelings each man had stirred in her, the past she cherished, the present she hesitated to embrace, and the future she was afraid to reach for. Daniel listened without judgment, holding her hand as if anchoring her to the moment. "I love you," he said simply. "Not just for who you were, but for who you are becoming." Emily leaned her head on his shoulder, feeling the weight of years and the lightness of possibility at the same time. In the days that followed, Emily took time to reflect. She journaled, walked in the parks, and spoke honestly with friends she trusted. She realized that her heart was not broken. It was wide open, ready to heal. The surprise Daniel had given her was more than the men he had brought into their home. It was a mirror showing her the truth she needed. That love is complicated, beautiful, and always worth fighting for. One crisp morning, Emily met Adam again, this time without the tension of last night's surprise. They talked over coffee, sharing stories and laughter. She felt her heart begin to beat to a new rhythm, one filled with both cautious hope and brave curiosity. At the same time, she and Daniel found their way back to each other, slowly rebuilding trust and tenderness. Their love was changing, transforming from something comfortable into something alive and unexpected. Emily knew her journey was far from over. There would be more questions, more choices, and moments of doubt. But for the first time in a long time, she felt ready to embrace the messy, beautiful story of love, her love, in all its forms. And as the sun rose higher that morning, Emily smiled, because she was no longer afraid of what the future might hold. She was ready to live it fully, bravely, and with an open heart. Emily Hart had always thought her life would look different by the time she turned 30. She imagined a kind of calm happiness, maybe a house full of laughter, or at least a marriage that felt like a quiet, steady flame, burning warm and sure. But here she was, 3 days away from her 30th birthday, standing in the middle of their small Denver apartment, feeling anything but steady. The apartment was cozy, filled with little pieces of their life together, photos of road trips, souvenirs from birthdays and holidays, a bookshelf crammed with novels and cookbooks. Outside, the late summer sun streamed through the windows, casting long shadows on the hardwood floor. The Rocky Mountains in the distance were a calm, familiar sight. But inside her chest, Emily's heart was restless. She glanced over at Daniel, her husband of 6 years, who sat across the room on their worn couch, laughing softly at something on his phone. He looked the same as he always did, dark hair, clear blue eyes, the easy smile that had made her fall in love with him in college. Yet lately, she'd noticed a distance in him she couldn't explain. He was still there, still present, but something had shifted. Something unspoken. They had grown apart in subtle ways. Less talking, less touching, less dreaming together. Daniel's job in a fast-paced tech company demanded more of his time, and Emily, now working as a graphic designer from home, felt the silence between them grow louder with each passing day. Her thoughts wandered to the past, to the nights when they stayed up late, whispering about their hopes, when the world felt full of possibilities. She missed that feeling, missed the way Daniel's eyes would light up when he talked about their future. And now, with her 30th birthday approaching, she felt a strange mix of anticipation and sadness. She wanted to believe Daniel had something special planned, but a small voice inside her whispered doubt. Then, a few days before her birthday, Daniel surprised her with a simple text. "I have a surprise for you." Actually, 4 surprises. Emily stared at the message, confused. 4 surprises? What could that mean? When she asked him, Daniel only smiled mysteriously and told her to trust him. The day of her birthday arrived like a slow, gentle tide. Emily woke early, the sunlight warming her face through the curtains. She made herself a cup of coffee, savoring the quiet moment before the day would truly begin. Daniel was quiet all morning, but she could see a subtle excitement in his eyes. When he glanced at her that evening, she returned home from a friend's lunch to find the apartment transformed. Soft jazz played from hidden speakers. The lights were dimmed to a warm amber glow, and candles flickered on the dining table, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The scent of something delicious, roasted herbs, garlic, fresh bread filled the air. Emily smiled, her heart softening. Maybe Daniel had finally planned something wonderful. "Happy birthday," Daniel said quietly as she stepped inside. "Thank you," she replied, her voice catching in her throat. They moved to the living room, where Daniel stood with his hands tucked casually into his pockets. But then Emily saw them 4 men standing quietly, watching her. Her breath caught in her throat. Each man was different. One was tall with a gentle face and eyes that seemed familiar in a way she couldn't place. Another was confident, with a charming smile that made her heart flutter uncomfortably. The third looked like someone she might have known once maybe, in another life or a forgotten dream. The last man was quiet, almost shy, but his gaze held a strange intensity that made her skin tingle. Emily's mind raced. Who were they? What was Daniel doing? Daniel's smile softened as he saw the confusion in her eyes. 4 surprises, he repeated, his voice low. They're here because I wanted you to see something tonight. Something about your life. About the choices you've made, and the ones you never did. Emily felt a strange pull, a mixture of fear and curiosity. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. The room felt heavy with unsaid things. Daniel stepped closer and took her hand. I love you, Emily, but I think it's time to face the parts of your heart you've hidden away. Her heart pounded, and for a moment, the room seemed to hold its breath. She looked back at the men. Their eyes were steady, waiting, and then slowly, a tear slid down Emily's cheek, because in that moment, she realized this birthday wasn't just about marking another year. It was about uncovering the stories she had tucked away. The loves, the losses, the longings. She was about to begin a journey she never expected, and nothing would ever be the same again. Emily's breath still trembled from the shock of the evening's surprise. The 4 men stood in the warm glow of the candles, quiet, but watching her with something that felt like both patience and hope. Daniel squeezed her hand gently. I want you to meet them, he said softly. Emily nodded, though her mind was racing. How did Daniel even know these men? Why bring them here now? And what did he want her to understand? One by one, Daniel introduced the men. The ex first came Mark. Mark was the one Emily had loved first. He had been her college boyfriend, McKind. A first love that never really leaves you, no matter how much time passes. Mark was the reason Emily had felt heartbreak so deeply for the first time. Mark's eyes were warm but tired, carrying the weight of years spent apart. When Emily looked at him, memories flooded back, long conversations on the porch, shy smiles. In crowded halls, the ache of saying goodbye. Emily, Mark said gently, voice thick with emotion. I never stopped caring about you. She blinked back tears. Mark, I thought you'd moved on. He shook his head. Some parts of us don't move on. We just learn to live with them. The almost next was Jake. Jake had been the man who came close to becoming everything for her, but for reasons neither of them fully understood, they'd never crossed that final line. He was the one who made her heart race and doubt herself in equal measure. Jake's smile was hesitant, but sincere. He held out his hand in greeting, and when Emily took it, it felt like a spark. I always wondered what if, Jake admitted quietly. I wanted to be the one who made you happy. Emily swallowed hard. The pain of lost possibilities stung her like a fresh wound. The stranger, the third man, was Daniel's choice to invite an unknown face from Emily's past, someone who'd meant something once but had drifted away like a shadow. His name was Lucas. Lucas had been a brief but intense chapter, a summer romance during a time Emily wasn't ready to love. They had shared laughter and secrets, but never a future. Lucas's eyes were guarded, but when he spoke, his voice carried a softness that surprised Emily. I wanted to stay. I wanted to be different. That sometimes life doesn't let us choose. Emily felt a sudden pang of regret, a longing for what might have been. The flame finally. There was Adam. Adam was the new fire in the room. The man Emily had only recently met. A stranger who awakened feelings she didn't know she had. He was warm, confident, and seemed to understand the parts of her heart that even Daniel didn't. Adam's gaze held something fierce and tender all at once. I don't know your past, he said, but I want to know your future. Emily's mind spun as Daniel quietly explained why he had brought them all here. Tonight isn't just about celebrating your birthday, Daniel said. It's about facing the life you've lived, the loves you've lost, the chances you never took, the parts of yourself you might still be afraid to see. Tears filled Emily's eyes. The room seemed to pulse with the weight of all those silent stories. Daniel's voice softened. I want you to know, Em, that love is never simple. It's messy and complicated, and sometimes painful. But it's also the most beautiful thing we have. Emily looked at each man, Mark, Jake, Lucas, and Adam, and suddenly understood. Each of them was a part of her story. A mirror to her soul. They represented the past she cherished, the future she longed for, and the present she was still trying to understand. Her heart ached with longing and hope. Daniel reached out, brushing a stray tear from her cheek. This night is yours, he whispered. Choose what you want to hold on to, and what you want to let go. Emily's breath caught in her throat. The night had only just begun.